Hello, everyone, and it's election night.
It's election night.
Do we have to talk about the election?
I mean, I suppose
really,
we should talk about the election.
Okay, but before we talk about the election, let's talk about, let me talk a little bit about some endorsements came to Donald Trump this week.
Oh, God. Good.
So,
love that.
First, Ice Cube and 50 Cent, they endorsed Donald Trump, but they withdrew, which made a lot of sense.
You're shady because I told him not to talk about this.
I'm just saying, but still, it's important for him to have known to.
I mean,
withdraw. You can't be part of NWA and you have a famous song called "After Police" and you endorse a candidate that is not about defunding police or anything.
Honestly,
like
I guess I can't argue with that.
No,
you're
can't.
right.
You can't.
You're right.
But however, he still did pick up 2 other endorsements, which kind of was funny. You got Lil Pump and Lil Wayne. So we're supposed to take advice from Lil Wayne.
I thought that was a joke.
Definitely. I mean,
I saw that Lil Wayne.
Doesn't Lil Wayne mix his cough syrup with
codeine?
With codeine,
yeah,
and calls it scissor.
So this is the person listening
or whatever. This is the person I'm supposed to get my political advice from.
Just like Kanye's on the ballot, right?
Oh God, yeah. Kanye's on the ballot.
Mm-hmm.
Is he still on the ballot, or
I
did
don't
he take his name off? Where has Kanye been?
I don't know, but he's not doing anything crazy.
He's not doing anything crazy. He must be on
leave him where he is.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Kim Kardashian.
Thank you for being properly medicated. We love that.
Thank you.
Our true heroes.
Thank you. So, everyone, please remember to share this video, like our Facebook page, and visit our website at the www.theprogresschannel.com, where you'll see many things coming up.
We got a lot going on in there.
A lot going on.
Yeah.
A whole bunch. So, welcome, my good friend, Taylor Neptune. Welcome back to the show once again. I mean, I think they need to start giving you like a higher paycheck even on here. So
I mean, I'm just saying, a little credit on, progress report with Dee Sage and...
So instead of a half a penny per word, maybe
just,
75% of a penny per word.
The penny has gone up.
Yeah, maybe.
That's not true.
We'll think about it. I mean, we did give you pizza today.
How Trump did with me.
Take at least that. You got pizza today. That's all you're going to get.
That's it. That's all we got.
But anyway, we have a wonderful panel of people coming on today. Yeah. But before I bring them on Saturday in Graham, North Carolina, a permanent march and rally named I Am Change and was organized by faith leaders and Black Lives Matter organizers was dispersed by police with pepper spray. According to police, the march and rally did not have a permit to block the street. According to the organizers, they were not blocking the street. The march was supposed to move to a polling place so participants can vote. So when I read about this, I refer to this because of the fact that, faith leaders marching, and
preachers,
pastors. people who are to guide people spiritually. So where do you feel the need to pepper spray the pastor?
Also, it was globally reported peacefully. It was not something that anyone was even weaponized or anything of that nature. So for that to be the first step that they take just tells you the angle they're taking on this kind of thing. And with that being said, even on the flip side, I've seen recent Trump rallies that have blocked off highways, blocked off streets, even like
blocked off,
wreaking havoc and causing
voting
like
without
noise pollution and violence.
You know, they were driving down Allen's Avenue the other day, beeping their horns, causing all kind of ruckus on a Sunday afternoon. I'm just sitting, trying to relax, sit back, and you guys want to beep your horn,
right? But they didn't get pepper sprayed though. So
no, they didn't get pepper sprayed.
So
no,
that's all I have to say about that one.
They should have got pepper sprayed,
and that was in the least bit peaceful.
Anyway, that's just so. Let's introduce our panel for tonight to discuss the election tonight, because it's the showdown, or as Uncle Joe calls it, the battle for the soul of the nation.
He's not to lay it on thick or anything.
No, not at all.
Anything.
So anyway, we have my good friend Tina Blakey here. Hi, Tina. How are you doing? So Tina this is her first time on the show, although you may have seen her name associated with the show. She's our outreach coordinator for the show, but Tina has done a lot of behind the scene work for us, and Tina is an LGBT romance novelist.
Ooh.
I peeked into a couple of her books. They're pretty good.
Okay, Tina.
And former vice president of community outreach for Rhode Island Pride. Also here with her, we have back Sarah Meyer, who is Tina's daughter.
Oh.
Okay. Yay.
Oh. I thought they had a slight resemblance.
A slight resemblance. A little bit.
A little bit.
Just a little bit.
And Sarah's joining us live from Seattle, from our and she's our West Coast correspondent. Sarah is a passionate advocate for Native rights and environmental justice. Welcome back to you, Sarah. Also, welcome. Hey, I'm sorry. That was I'm just.
That was the Zoom 2-second delay.
Yeah, you got to remember about the Zoom 2-second delay tonight. Because we already know a lot of people are probably using online tonight and all this stuff.
I remember
we already know Donald Trump's like, Twitter.
Yeah.
Anyway,
yes. Oh boy.
You know, there's gonna be a lot of that tonight, guys.
But you before you get too far, you forgot one person.
No, I know. I'm gonna get to Gabriel. I know. I would never forget Gabriel. Gabriel was one of my co-hosts one night, and we had a wonderful time, didn't we? Gabriel is joining us again for this special episode. Gabriel is a social justice advocate and a student. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. So there's one more person. I even want to introduce this person. Like, they stood me up a couple of times on that. You introduce this person.
He has beef, chicken, and tofu with this person. He's been, for all you vegetarians out there.
Yeah.
He has been trying to get this person here for a while, and we finally have them here. So we are talking about Brett Jacob, of course. Hi, Brett.
Who that?
Hi, Brett. How are you?
Well, after that introduction, I don't know how I am.
Oh, well then. Dee's been working hard to get you on the show. We value, your opinion and all you have to say, but you guys got, like I said, beef, chicken, and tofu right now.
It's all right. Brett, I still love you. I still love you.
I love you, Dee. Thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Of course. Brett is Mr. Gay Rhode Island's 2019 and Deputy Director of Policy for Mayor Alorza's office as well. Mm-hmm. And Brett is also the mayor's LGBT liaison. So Brett's busy. Brett's got some things going on. And we're glad to have him.
So, let me just ask this question. Let's start off with the question of the night.
Oh boy.
Okay. What happens if Trump wins?
The eerie silence says it all.
All at once?
The eerie silence.
Anybody can take this question. What happens if Trump wins? That's going to be the overall question of the night that we have to think about, and we're going to be pondering tonight as we sit down and break this down. We're going to break down some local elections as well, but let's keep that question in the back of our minds as we do that. But any anybody just want to take a quick stab at it, like do like a prediction of what happens if he wins?
Oof.
Sure. I'll take a quick.
That's heavy.
I just don't want to like start to interrupt somebody. So I'm just sitting here like,
Right.
yeah, I feel that that's literally like my
Just go ahead. Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, I guess that we'd see a lot of what we have been, where it's hard to predict policy from somebody that's constantly contradicting themselves. But what we do see is it's like there weren't a lot of protections for trans people, and there really aren't now. So we're probably just going to see a lot more of that happening. And I never like, it's not that I don't expect it, but I'm always surprised by like how they constantly are just taking away things. I don't know. I guess I don't know where it comes from. I guess I should be more I don't know. I'm always upset and flabbergasted, but
I actually understand.
predictable.
I think I agree with you. I think we see more of what we've been seeing of the past 4 years. I think we're going to start seeing maybe even more scandals and a lot more cover-ups, a lot more trying to shake down foreign countries. I think we're going to keep seeing a lot of that, because if Trump wins this election, it ultimately states that he's gotten away with everything,
laundry list
of a lot of things. So
I think it's going to be more extreme too, because now he's got nothing to lose, right?
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
I agree.
I think we're gonna like lose a lot. Like we're gonna lose a lot more, just because it's now like he's talked about everything he wanted to do these 4 years. Now these extras is when he actually does it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like the fear, and we're gonna see a lot more of that.
I mean, they
Where
won.
I
They
feel like-
got the they have the justice spot. They got the justice spot that
They
they
got the
wanted.
justice
They have,
spot.
you know, and you get the president in there. God forbid if the U.S. Senate, and I'm hoping the U.S. Senate, we get some type of leeway in the U.S. Senate tonight. But before we get too far, and I know Brett, did you want to chime in?
Yeah. I wanted to add to that. I agree. I certainly agree with everyone else that there is a real fear component, given the president's track record already in 4 years and what he's been able to dismantle, and really how he's attacked marginalized communities, particularly trans folks. Mm-hmm. I think also what we'll see if Trump wins is we'll continue to see this energy and excitement around real progressive candidates around the country. I mean, in the midterm elections, we saw the House flip over to Democrats, in part fueled by Trump, a sort of second referendum on Trump, if you will. Mm-hmm. And then we even see that down at the local level. We've seen recently a slew of progressive candidates winning in the Rhode Island House and the Rhode Island Senate. And certainly, even more locally, we see the political will around issues that are really important to the folks that Trump continues to marginalize. In particular, the mayor recently announced the Truth, Reconciliation, and Reparations process. And I, as much as I certainly do not want Trump to win, I wonder if that sort of energy to retaliate against Trump would have existed if he lost. So I think we'll see more of that as well.
Yeah.
So before we get too deep into the conversation tonight, we want to introduce Bradley Vandestan, who is our, I think, senior political analyst.
Senior, I know.
Political analysis. I don't feel right calling him a senior political analysis. I mean,
it's interesting.
The kid's younger than me. So, I'm 21. He's 18. So anyway,
20.
21.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so I believe we're going to jump over to Bradley, correct?
Hey everybody, my name is Bradley J. Vanderstedt. I'm the senior political correspondent with the Progress Report. I'm super happy to be with us tonight, and we're going to start talking about a couple different things about the election tonight, get us really excited about some of the details of these. So the first thing I had wanted to talk about was some of the swing Senate seats that we're going to start coming up. Pretty exciting stuff. The future of the United States Senate hangs in the balance tonight. And we're going to start talking about a couple of the candidates that are going to start popping up on the screen here in just a moment. But first, let's talk about, I was driving today and I was just reflecting on the importance of this moment. We have millions and millions and millions of Americans taking time out of their day to have their voice heard. And if you just remove the partisanship from it for just a moment, this is a fabulous thing. This is a really monumental thing. Brought a tear to my eye earlier today. But let's start talking about some of these races. So first of all, we have North Carolina here. North Carolina, very competitive race. As you can see, Cal Cunningham, Democratic challenger, and Tom Tillis, Republican incumbent. Pretty exciting race too. Cal Cunningham and Tom Tillis, within the span of the same news cycle, both had potentially campaign-ending events happen to them. Tom Tillis contracted COVID-19, which showed a lot of people that he was not safe regarding the virus whatsoever. Cal Cunningham had an extramarital affair pour into the news cycle. So both at about the same time. So it really threw a lot of craziness into a Senate race that was going toward Cal at the time. And we'll see at this point, it's determined a total toss-up. We can see some earlier polls here, 48 to 51 currently as an average. So we'll have to wait until after this is over to know the true winner here. And we're going to take a look at the next race. So upcoming next, we have two also incredible candidates. John Ossoff in Georgia against David Perdue, the incumbent. This is John Ossoff's second attempt at grabbing a Georgia Senate seat. We'll see if he's successful. David Perdue, incumbent, also endorsed by Donald Trump. Let's take a look at the next Georgia race. We have a special election here taking place to determine the successor to Kelly Loeffler. Kelly Loeffler appointed to the U.S. Senate by the Republican Georgia governor. She's fending off her seat from the right and the left. She's got Doug Collins, a Trump endorsed, coming at her from the right, and Reverend Raphael Warnock, a popular Democratic challenger as well. We also have Matt Lieberman. These are the top four candidates. Special elections don't just have a primary system. There's a lot of folks that can run. And if none of these four candidates win the special election, it will run off and the top two will go against each other again in January. Interestingly here, Matt Lieberman has been called the spoiler candidate for the Democrats. He is not quite as popular as Raphael. Many people are calling him to drop out of the race and hand it over for a unified Democrat victory, but he has hung on, and we will see how that plays out. So we're going to take a look at the next Senate race now. Turn it over to Arizona. Arizona, a very interesting state, this race. We have Martha McSally running against Mark Kelly, former astronaut and Democrat challenger. Martha McSally has an interesting history here. She was actually running in 2018 against Kyrsten Sinema for the other Senate seat. She lost that election, but when John McCain passed away, leaving a vacancy, the Republican governor of of Arizona appointed her to that seat. So despite having lost that election, she did end up with a Senate seat. Now, 2 years later, she has to defend it against a very popular challenger here, this race garnering a lot of national attention. And it is, as we can see, leaning toward Mark Kelly. Moving along to the next race, we're going to take a look at Maine. So the great state of Maine up north on the East Coast here. Susan Collins defending her Republican incumbency against Democratic challenger and former Speaker of the Maine House of Representatives, Sarah Gideon. Sarah Gideon has attacked Collins, typically known for her moderate stance, but in recent years endorsing the appointment of Justice Brett Kavanaugh and Amy Coney Barrett. Using those two votes, Gideon has been able to paint Collins as an extremist, alienating her from those moderate voters and perhaps costing her this election. Race leaning toward Gideon with a span of 6 points. Moving along to the next Senate race. Talking about Montana here, known as the Battle of the Steves. Okay, we got the Steves duking it out in Montana. Steve Daines, the current Republican incumbent, battling against Steve Bullock, sitting governor of the state of Montana. Very interesting. We're going to see a lot of parallels to the great state of Colorado, which we'll talk about coming up as well. So we'll move on to the next Senate candidate race. Oh, Colorado, here we go. So a lot of similarities here. Sitting Republican incumbent, popular, in this case, former governor John Hickenlooper, jumping into the race. Both Steve Bullock of Montana and John Hickenlooper leaving the Democratic primary contest for president to run in their own respective state Senate races, coming in with a lot of name recognition and really popular, a lot of good fundraising, a lot of great chances of success there. So both of these states together may determine the outcome of the Senate, who takes the Senate in this cycle. Moving along to the next race, we're talking about Iowa. Teresa Greenfield, former a business person, running against Joni Ernst, who originally was one of the most popular Republican incumbents in the Senate. A lot of powerhouse here. She was actually the first woman combat veteran elected to the Senate. People thought she had an incredible future in the Republican Party. However, this race has gotten particularly competitive. We're looking at Teresa Greenfield really getting quite close, as we can see, within 1 percentage point. Current polls indicating Joni Ernst is going to have the fight of her life hanging on to this Senate seat. Let's take a look at the next race here. We have Alabama. Alabama is safely in Republican hands. This race is particularly fascinating, though. At this point in history, we have Doug Jones, Democrat, defending his seat against challenger Tommy Tuberville. Football coach Tommy Tuberville was endorsed by Donald Trump. The seat that Doug Jones won 2 years ago was that of the vacated seat of former Attorney General Jeff Sessions, who actually came back in this race to try to get that seat again, ended up losing after a very public spat with President Donald Trump, and Trump endorsed not his former Attorney General, but the football coach Tuberville here. So it is more than likely going into Republican hands this cycle. And we'll keep on going here. South Carolina is our last race that we'll talk about today. South Carolina, formerly no-name Jamie Harrison, now a totally credible challenger to Republican incumbent Lindsey Graham. Lindsey Graham, though at one point almost the speaker for the entire GOP, incredibly famous, sits on the Senate Committee for Intelligence, a really powerful position. He lost a lot of ground. The South Carolina has changed dramatically. Jamie Harrison, a lobbyist for the Democratic Party, was able to sneak in, and Lindsey Graham did not help the situation. His tight grasp of Donald Trump, in addition to his debate flub, where he suggested that black people could travel through South Carolina only if they were conservative, something to that effect, really cost him quite a bit. So that's it for our competitive Senate races. We're going to go back to Dee and Taylor in the studio.
Thank you so much, Bradley.
Thank you,
so
Bradley.
So before we get into the this thing, if we could bring our panel back, looking at and the information that Bradley gave us was about the U.S. Senate across the nation, things like that. Brett, how do you feel if the Senate moves to blue and we have the House of Representatives blue? Do you think now the people have more control over what Donald Trump tries to do?
Well, certainly depends on whether Donald Trump wins or not. So if we're assuming that Donald Trump wins the White House and the Senate and the House, the Senate flips to blue, the House flips to blue, yeah, I think that is still a considerable win, considering that the Judiciary panel, right, or committee rather, appoints Supreme Court justices. We would then have the majority in the Senate, and whoever the Senate majority leader is would be able to appoint all of the committee chairs. And while I think it could be challenging to advance any bipartisan legislation as long as Trump is in the White House that is reasonable and actually accomplishes what people want, I do think that we will have at least a wall of sorts. I'm sorry to use that term in reference to Trump, but we will have a wall that prevents some of the most extreme legislation from even getting close to being passed.
Tina, let me ask you this question. We just a little while ago we just seen that there's a chance that Texas could be leaning towards blue. If Texas switches from a red state to a blue state, is this a huge win for Democrats moving forward for forward elections?
Absolutely, and I think that it's also a huge win for people in our community in that state as well. And just, we spent some time driving through there not too long ago, and it was interesting to hear, all the things that Trump was saying about wind turbines and being so against it when we were driving through Texas, and that's all we could see, all along the line was turbines everywhere on, you know, along the horizon. So it's absolutely a huge win. If Texas was to go blue, that's amazing. I mean, everything that people say about Republicans, you know, I think they kind of side eye looking at Texas when they say some of these things. So that would be huge. It's a huge win
in general.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Sarah,
yeah, and Georgia
question.
too, right?
Yeah.
Sarah, question. So you're over there in Seattle. What is it in the West Coast? What are we looking at in the West Coast as far as terms of where do you think at the end of the night, because you guys still a little bit behind the clock right now, where do you think you guys are going to lie in leaning towards blue or red?
Well, I'm not really worried about Washington. We're pretty consistently blue.
True.
Yes, Washington.
Yeah. I think that one thing that I'm really looking at right now is Oregon. They've got Prop 110, right? And that's for a lot of addiction support. It's also like looking at decriminalizing drugs. And I think that that's really important. And I think that it's really interesting that Oregon's leading the way on that. So I'm watching that one because, you know, we legalized marijuana here several years ago. That was partly me. Haha. So
yeah.
I did petition here, and that's how I got here. So it's interesting to have been part of the political like landscape here before I came and watch it sort of unfurl.
And Gabriel, do you think if Joe Biden wins the election with Kamala Harris being his vice president, do you think that tensions with Black Lives Matter protests, will that lessen, or do you think we keep the pressure on to make that change? I think you're muted.
I think the pressure might still be on because of Joe Biden's views on funding the police more than they already are. And Black Lives Matter wants to defund. So I think the pressure will still be there. I think that it will be way easier than dealing with a president that does not want to move forward and does not even believe in the movement. So I think it will definitely be easier, but the pressure will still be there.
Right. So let's get to here in Rhode Island for a little bit. Let's switch over to Rhode Island. We have a big night in the state representatives race. And Speaker of the House Mattiello is facing some serious opposition, not just in this election, but could be as his role in Speaker in the House. What would the State House look like without Mattiello as Speaker?
Anyone can take it. Anyone can take it.
Can I just punt that over to Brett?
She can I just punt that over to Brett?
Just pass the bucket.
Sure. I mean, obviously it will be interesting to see who runs for Speaker of the House and who gets support. There is a growing caucus of real progressive state legislators that have been coming to the Rhode Island State House, and it will be interesting to see how that caucus, really flexes their influence in the selection of the next speaker.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I mean, with that being said, although I'm not sure if we can do that anymore, thanks to Ken. We've seen a lot more women and more important women of color getting elected to state offices this year as well. So are we hopeful that representation in the House is going to be more diverse than the Senate?
Oh my gosh, yes, please. Can we do that?
Yeah.
Can we do that?
That is the goal here. We're trying to.
I mean, we've had Brianna Henry's, Tiara Mack, also Jose Batista on the show. We've had conversations with them about. We've had conversations with them about
everything.
Just about everything.
Literally, we've talked to all of them.
Right, but
all these beautiful women who have been on the show past couple months now have just been amazing. And every time I see one of them interviewed, I'm like, oh my gosh, yes, that's exactly what we need. And it kind of takes the pressure. Can I say it takes the pressure off of me? Because then I don't have to feel guilty about not running.
It's just, I think it's very uplifting to see women of color, especially in roles of power.
Right.
I love
especially, I mean, I think, and as much as we can talk about, I think like with people like Kamala Harris, we're going to start seeing a lot more women of color run for positions. I'm not just saying Kamala Harris, but there's a lot of young. I love Representative Omar, Representative AOC, Representative Tlaib, young women that are in Congress that are progressive young women of color that are in Congress doing things. And we also seen that I think last last election in Texas, there was a sweeping number of black women judges that got elected. Got elected in districts in Texas. So I think that's going to be. So the president has stated he will claim victory tonight if it appears that he's leading.
Yeah, he thinks he's won, is what I'm getting from all of the different reports. And I even said earlier this week on Tea with Taylor, I saw an article about him building an unscalable fence around the White House.
Yeah,
it sounds a lot like the wall scenario to me, but
he has a fence around the White House.
He's building an unscalable fence around the White House.
Around the White House.
We're gonna dig underneath it, guys. We're gonna tunnel.
There's no such thing as
put himself
no such
behind
thing
a
as
wall
ladders.
of the White
No
House
one has,
and don't let him
no
out.
one has ever seen one.
Oh man! Oh, nobody thought of that.
I saw an interview with him where he was saying that winning comes easy to him, and I was thinking, you know what? No, that's not true at all.
No,
having things handed to you is easy for you.
And anytime he's actually had to win something, he hasn't.
I mean,
fake it till you make it.
The Party has given everything to him.
Right.
Was he winning then?
Oh,
absolutely. All right, Charlie Sheen, #winning.
No, he tries to be Charlie Sheen, winning, but he's a loser. He's always been a loser.
No.
He's the greatest loser of all the losers.
You guys have brought out the impression.
There it is, and I can't wait for tomorrow morning or when everything is over, where I can just look at you, Donald Trump, in the camera and just say, "You're fired." Anyway.
Essentially, that's the goal here.
Climate change. Climate change has been a topic this election for the first time. Even Trump has said humans might be added to it. How important do you think this issue is to voters across the country?
This is the same guy that said that all the fires are caused by humans.
We gotta go rake the forests.
We have to go rake the forest. We have to get out there with the leaf blowers and everybody and get this all done.
He's passed so many rules to save the forest.
Yes.
I mean,
I think it's funny because like we have so much science showing it. Like there's things that like people always talk about, okay, well, the planet goes through cycles of warming. That's true. To a degree. Then there's also like, CO2, like methane. These things are naturally occurring. But what we're also seeing are drastic raises in sulfur. It's sulfur hexafluoride, which is not absorbed by anything. This can't be absorbed by anything. It's not natural, and it's building up in like parts per million in the atmosphere in like alarming rates. You can look at that from the Hawaiian Observatory. And like once it's in the air, like we're gonna have to find artificial ways to remove it because there's artificial ways of like putting it in. And it's a byproduct of like electricity, right? So like we're gonna see a lot more of that as we're going forward too. Like we need to be looking not only at ways of like scaling back since the Industrial Revolution, right? Like we've inherited a lot of this, but we're gonna have to look at ways in which we're gonna be moving forward as technology like advances.
And
so it's good we're starting now.
and adding to what you said too, he's let go with a lot of restrictions from the EPA, and then we're not monitoring those types of things, and the consequences are going to be astronomical. This is what happens when you have people who are put in there who don't listen to the scientists and don't understand it.
This is the same guy that said it's going to get colder, as if fire doesn't survive in the cold.
Seriously.
The tide
There
goes
will be
in,
no
the
fire.
tide
Fires
goes
in the
out.
Arctic this
Nobody
year.
knows why.
The same person who said that, the heat will help COVID not spread. Yeah.
Be here one day and go the next
Yeah,
day.
yeah.
Brett, you wanted to chime in.
Yeah, Dee, to your question about how important of an issue is this to voters, I personally have not looked at polling data or have like a firm sense necessarily, but just my perspective on this is that when we Sarah talked a lot about the science behind it, and the science behind it is overwhelming and makes perfect sense. When you put that science in the context of a nation that generally has de-invested in schools, and does not provide adequate resources for kids to learn, science doesn't mean much. But what does mean something to people is still, the dollar is king. The great American dollar does mean something to people.
Yes.
And what I think will continue to make this an important issue to most Americans who are uninterested in the science is when we frame the conversations in ways that AOC has been a leader on, in framing it as the Green New Deal, as reference a piece of history that we all can understand, that we're all familiar with, we're all taught, and also make clear economic arguments for it. That investments in in renewable energy is not taking money out of people's pockets. Instead, it's actually investing in a new wave of economic activity that people can get bought into. So I think that continuing to have the conversation in that way, in addition to the science, will help make this a more prominent issue, because we need to act right now.
Yeah. Well, according to Trump, Brett, fossil fuels are great. We're gonna keep using those. Wind turbines kill the birds, and we have giant windows, and so we can't do that.
Is that your Trump impression?
No, stop.
That was pretty good.
I've been hanging out with you for too long. It's terrible.
Too long. Speaking of climate change, Trump also
Wait,
before
you move off of that, I want to add on to what Brett was just saying. If we could just cut Betsy DeVos, if we can just get rid of her and have Dr. Fauci back, can we increase the amount of science that we have in there, and so we can understand it? And can we not have people in charge of education that have no clue what they're doing?
Yeah, it's just creating mass hysteria at this point because no one has the knowledge to spread.
First off, not just someone in education that knows what they're doing. Can we please have someone in administration that knows what they're doing?
Right.
Because I think more than half the people in administration don't know their, excuse my, grandma, I know you're watching, and I said I wasn't going to cuss today, but some people in there, and I'm using a term she says, don't know their ass from their elbow. That's the problem. And
all they're good for is writing checks, and that's ridiculous.
Exactly.
Exactly.
You're such an old man.
Listen, that's what she says. That's what she says. It's the funniest thing in the world. My grandma has a bunch of sayings like that. She'll sit on the couch and say, Donald Trump's lying a sack of shit. Like, what? Grandma, what's now he's a farmer? Okay. But love you, Grams. Love you, Grandma Joy. Hi.
We love Grams. We love Grams.
Anyway, so also, Trump administration removed gray wolf from the endangered species list. Many environmental scientists are upset with this and are even calling the move political, as Trump is playing to his base. How much of an impact do you think this will have on the election?
They're calling it political. Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
What else
I
would
don't
it
think
be?
he's smart enough to make a political move like that, to be honest.
Leave the wolves alone.
What?
Who do they bother?
I can see how people, well, farmers, cattle
Oh,
herders,
okay,
right? Same with the horses, right? I can see people not understanding why things like this are important. Like, why should we care about a specific species, right? And there's a couple things about that where you can't, there's things called keystone species, and you can't know a keystone species until it's been removed. We saw that with wolves specifically in the Grand Canyon, right? We didn't see this ecosystem was falling apart without wolves, because you can't take out apex predators like that. And oftentimes it is the case with apex predators. But besides like keystone species and apex predators, we need biodiversity to biodiversity in order to not only improve the quality of life of the humans on the earth, but having diversity, it increases the amount of carrying capacity for the earth. It means that we can have more humans on it.
It's a sustainable life cycle.
Mm-hmm.
And also those types of predators, as Sarah was saying, are important because they also reduce the amount of sick animals that are there in nature as well.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
it makes for healthier systems.
It's crazy. I'm afraid of rats, and I used to say, let's just get rid of all the rats. Like, get all the rats. But I realized that every single thing in this world works. It just works. They have it. Had everything had living thing.
For me, that's mosquitoes. I'm all set.
Oh, I'm not. I'm not mosquitoes. They get my ankles.
What do they do? What do they do?
Ankles.
They don't.
I don't.
What do they benefit? I don't know.
Mosquitoes are the worst.
Birds.
They're
bird food.
They're like
Birds.
literally,
They like
they're
birds.
literally like these tiny little prehistoric things that cause so much havoc. Ugh.
Would you rather they were big like sharks? Also prehistoric.
If they were bigger, at least we would know our adversary. Like they're tiny and infiltrating and like just buzzing around, and you don't know until you're itchy.
Tell you what, keep the mosquito, and how about if we get rid of rich old white men on Wall Street? You want to trade?
You know what?
They're also buzzing around your house. You don't know
They're
where they
also
are.
mosquitoes.
They're also mosquitoes. They're bloodsuckers as well.
I mean,
Yes.
mosquitoes, don't insult the mosquito like that. The mosquito has a purpose.
Well, I mean, okay. Well, speaking of old white men, since you brought it up, with this election, the 2020, we have been bouncing between two old white men, so to speak. But there's also been a lot of anxiety this year, which is something that is somewhat new to most of us. And I want to say there's been a lot of tension, a lot higher over the past few days since the upcoming election. Even to the point where some people might say anxiety and tension at an all-time high. Do you think that may be just because of the two people that we are dealing with in this election, or do you think it might be because of COVID? Because we are all very, very much tuned in now because we're stuck at home.
Some would call them A, some would call them B, right? A little bit of both.
A little bit of both. I was so anxious I couldn't decide which side I wanted to do my hair, so I just did both.
I was gonna say something about that. I didn't know if you were going for like the new Batman movie.
Yeah,
you were gonna go as what's his name? Two-Face?
I mean,
Harvey,
that's a good idea, but
Harvey Dent.
Harvey Dent.
It's
a good idea, but no.
Yeah, see, I know my comics out there.
I think for a lot of us
one.
too that we know what rights we've had taken away over the last 4 years, and I think that he's going to double down because, like I said earlier, he's got nothing to lose, and so he's going to placate that base. So I think that we have a lot more to lose if he stays in. He's just going to keep taking, and there's nothing to stop him. He's already been impeached. If he's reelected, then we've reelected an impeached president. Yeah. He doesn't care that, a majority of the country doesn't care for him or doesn't like him. He believes in himself, and that's it. He has no qualms about human life.
Yeah, I'm gonna throw this in there because even so, it's Joe Biden. Let's say Joe Biden wins tonight. Okay, Joe Biden wins the election, but the Democrat Party goes forward, things like that. Gabe had actually the question about BLM and where do we go, less than protests, things like that. But let's ask where does the Democrat Party go from here? Because there's still issues in the Democrat Party. We can win tonight, but that's just an anti-Trump win. That's not, hey, we're for the Democrat Party win. Where does the Democrat Party go from here?
The Democrat Party has a lot of troubles that they need to recognize. They are not as progressive as they may think that they are. And they have a lot of their own things that they need to move forward with and listen to people. I believe that they can be progressive in some ways, but in other ways, they need to work on it. And I think first step is to recognize that and listen to people like the way that they say that they do.
Yeah. I say that often. There is no perfect party.
No.
Well, a big problem too is healthcare, right? Everybody wants healthcare.
Oh yeah.
Why isn't affordable healthcare? Universal healthcare was a huge ticket for Democratic candidates in the caucus, in the primaries. Where is it now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I felt like a lot of things that they were doing kind of just disappeared into the air, and to never be talked about again. And that's what I worry about when Joe Biden takes the seat, is if Joe Biden takes the seat, like where will you go from here? Will you actually stand by what you are saying?
I think we take that as the win, and we start there, and we take these local elections, we take the Senate, and we start moving the goalposts even more left.
I definitely think that, like, I definitely think protesters, like anybody from the community, will hold and stand their ground on just keep going and keep that momentum going that we have of making sure that we hold these like presidents accountable for their actions.
Right. Yeah, don't get complacent just because you have like a blue Senate, a blue president. Like you got to keep.
And then as Dee asked us earlier, you know, when you look at if he does win, what the next 4 years would look like. There, you know, for me at least, and for most people, what I'm looking for in our next president or our next candidate is to restore credibility and to restore stability and to have some sort of vision for this country, because that's what we're lacking, and that's where we lose track of where.
I think of all things, one thing I think a president does have to, at some point, have to do. They have to put aside their party, their own person, and say what's good for the country, and look at the numbers and say, well, majority of Americans want this. We got to do what's right for the country. And I think any good leader, when we think about some of the great presidents, not because they wasn't 100% so great, but the presidents that this country put forth during perilous times, such as George Washington, because of the Revolutionary War, beginning of the country, Abraham Lincoln, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, John Kennedy, even, dare I say it, Eisenhower. I watched a video, let's do a video the other day, where when Kennedy, in the middle of the Cuban Missile Crisis, Kennedy picked up the phone and called Dwight D. Eisenhower, former president, Republican president, picked up the phone and had a conversation with him to get advice on what should he do during this crisis, and said where everything was. So I do think as a president, our next president, not to sit there and say you have to go completely to the right, completely to the left, or anything like that, but say what does this country have to do in order to heal itself and move forward? What do we have to fix, and not be afraid to fix it.
Exactly, and not be afraid to admit their mistakes, because this country is not admitting their past. They don't like to admit that they're doing wrong. Native American lands have been stolen on. There's been so many things going on with them, and every presidential candidate has ignored that. They have not spoken on any of those issues. And it's about speaking on those issues and being there. It's not about just marching with the protest. It's about doing what they want you to do.
Yeah.
Listening
what
to
they
them.
need you to do.
What we need
you to do.
Exactly.
For sure.
Brett, you look like you wanted to chime in.
Yeah. To your point earlier around, how do we support the growing mental health concerns that our communities are facing? And, I think about diseases of despair, right? Anxiety, depression, folks, who unfortunately complete suicide, substance abuse disorder, right? I think about a couple of things. One, this president, Donald Trump, has not only agitated the anxiety and the concern for those of us who disagree with him, he also is fear-mongering and scapegoating to his base. And while they feel emboldened and empowered, there is an element of fear, right? They spoke to him and said that we are scared of the other people coming and taking our jobs and invading our country, whatever that means. And he's capitalized on that fear. So there's this really vicious cycle where the fear that Donald Trump is inciting in his base is now causing fear in those of us who disagree and who have been historically marginalized by people who generally are in his base, right? So it sort of feeds on itself. And I think about like, how do we, question about how do we move forward as a Democratic Party? I think first and foremost, we need to make critical investments in ensuring that people have the correct support that they need in order to really address mental health concerns in a healthy, productive way. That's number one. But also, as a party, I think that a lot of the issues that are causing anxiety, that are at the heart of the fear that folks who support Trump have, are issues that are consistent across party lines. Economic insecurity. We know that the wealth gap is outrageous. We know that income inequality is also out of control. Climate justice is certainly impacting all of us, whether everyone believes the science or not. And as Sarah mentioned, also healthcare, right? Everyone wants to be able to go to the doctor without worrying about being saddled with debt. All of these issues affect every American in some way, right? And I would say a majority of Americans in some way. So I think as a Democratic Party, we need to find a way to really center the needs of those who've been most impacted by all of these issues, and do a lot of outreach and effort and support to making that message palatable to others who disagree.
Well, guys, this is all great right now, but we have to, we're going to jump over to Bradley to get a couple of updates on today's election. So we're going to jump to Bradley.
We love Bradley.
We love Bradley. How you doing there, Bradley?
Marco.
Okay.
Oh, all right.
We're having a little technical difficulty there. A little bit of technical difficulty there. But so moving on, as we go forward, do we think COVID-19 is on the ticket?
Absolutely. Oh, accurately on the ticket, or on the ticket?
Actively. I think there's a lot of things
on
that
the
are on the
ticket.
ticket right now.
Looks like we lost.
Other than Donald Trump versus Biden, there's a lot of things on the ticket. There's a lot of things at stake here. Period. Women's rights.
I think that what people are missing when we start talking about healthcare that that Sarah had started and Brett had touched up on, was that when we think of healthcare, we think of people who are just wanting to go in and just get go into the doctor when they're sick. And that's not necessarily the case. When we're looking at people who are living at or below the poverty line, these are compounded issues. And so then when we have our working class who are sick today, and they're unable to work, and then that illness advances into something even more serious. It goes into, let's say, someone who's hurt at work and they can't get adequate health care, so now they become debilitated within a couple of years and they're unable to work at all. So then that becomes someone who then has to work or to live off of Social Security for the rest of their life because they're unable to work. Or somebody who twists their ankle or hurts their knee and they're unable to get that adequate health care, maybe go to physical therapy. So now they have to have surgery that they can't afford. And these people then can't work. And they become, for lack of a better word, dependent on society. And this in turn becomes a greater impact to society than to just have health care. It becomes the rest of the village then who is taking care of these people who are unable to work, not because they don't want to, but they physically can't. And so then we have that burden on them. Exactly. Dental health. I mean, that is seen a lot, especially in a lot of what we call impoverished countries, aren't getting adequate dental care. And that will greatly impact your quality of life. And that in turn impacts your working class, which then impacts your economy that this right says that they're so passionate about, but yet they won't back it up with having adequate health care for people who are providing the most work in our society. So to say that COVID then isn't part of that discussion is an injustice. To say that our administration isn't taking it serious when we have a pandemic on our hands, that will greatly impact our economy, multifold in the long run if we don't take care of these things now.
Absolutely.
By staying home and taking care of yourself, that will lead to greater impacts to society and the economy later, because then by their they're impacting other people's lives. They're getting other people sick. They're slowing down the rate at which we can open up our economy and open up our states and our cities and our borders, for trade.
And getting back to normal.
All of these compound over time. And if we would just, let it ride and just be patient, but we can't do that. So instead we become complacent when it comes to living with the virus instead of dealing with it the way that we want to. We've become impatient and complacent, and without it being prominent on our ticket, we are in for a world of hurt.
But so thank you, Tina. We're going to go to Bradley quickly to get an update on everything that's going on. He's back with us.
We got him.
We got him. We found him.
Hey everybody, Bradley here. Sorry about earlier. I was wearing my invisibility cloak. Forgot to take it off. I just want to point out that Tina had an awesome point about COVID-19, and so we're going to start talking about that exactly when we start talking about some of our swing states here. All right, so first state we're going to talk about here is Wisconsin. Wisconsin, especially vulnerable to COVID-19 right now. Trump has been barnstorming Wisconsin with 5 campaign visits since the beginning of October. Biden, with only one, seems to suggest that he's pretty confident he's taken the state of Wisconsin. Wisconsin's got a pretty interesting layout here. We got the urban areas of Milwaukee and Madison to the south, kind of the Democratic strongholds down there. Unfortunately for the Democrats, the Kenosha shooting, a little bit south of Milwaukee, where Jacob Blake was shot, unarmed black man, in his vehicle by police, has really inflamed both sides of this debate, which is going to prompt turnout in high levels from both folks who are backing the blue and folks who are on the BLM side of those things. In addition, we have the appointment of Amy Coney Barrett also driving high turnout in an already very high turnout state in Wisconsin. In 2016, Trump won Wisconsin with only less than 1 percentage point, and he's going to need another close miracle in order to win this again. Milwaukee and Madison are both, like I said, very Democratic strongholds, but if you look over toward the river here, to the Mississippi River, that's about Wisconsin's 3rd congressional district right there. That's a swingy area as well. It's got a lot of dairy farmers and folks who are living of the suburbs of the Twin Cities, and that is likely to swing either way. Another really competitive year for Wisconsin. Moving a little bit further east, we can start talking about Michigan right over here. Michigan, interesting fact I learned recently, the suburbs of Detroit comprise about 1/3 of the state's entire population, and they're quite Democratic leaning. Of course, also with the largest metropolitan area, Detroit itself. The Democratic winner, if Biden's going to take Michigan, has got to drive out turnout in Detroit. That's the name of the game. The northern area, the thumb of Michigan up there into Lake Michigan, right over here. Former very industrial area, former very blue collar, although declining rates of union membership have really made that area also a bit of a toss-up. We're not seeing that strong Democratic stronghold anymore. Plus, Michigan has a very high percentage of non-college educated white voters that Trump is going to try to appeal to directly. In addition to those rural areas in the north of Michigan, we're also looking at the western area, Grand Rapids area, where Trump is it's very conservative area. Trump is expected to do well there as well. So it's just a matter of which candidate can drive out turnout in those respective areas. Ohio, well, we'll keep going east here. Ohio, the state has, ever since the mid-1940s, predicted the presidential contest, except with one exception in the 1960s with Richard Nixon. But Ohioans are pretty confident they're going to guess the right candidate again. Ohio is leaning toward Biden, so we'll see if that works in Biden's favor. Continuing even further east, we got the great state of Pennsylvania over here, the Keystone State. It very well might be the keystone of this election. We have the very urban areas of Pittsburgh on the western end and Philadelphia on the eastern end. Very diverse groups, very Democratic, lean Democratic, and a little bit north of Philadelphia into Allegheny County, Scranton area where Biden was born. Definitely turning out some blue-collar voters there for Biden. In Pennsylvania, though, you do have the T, as political analysts call it, is that center of Pennsylvania that moves up into the northern, east and western corners of the state, and that's the reliably conservative vote. So again, a turnout game, seeing which campaign can turn out voters in their support. Let's see, moving a little bit further south, we have North Carolina. North Carolina is listed as a toss-up. It could go totally either way, though right now leaning conservative. The city of Charlotte, North Carolina, of course, being the defining metro area, along with other smaller centers like Raleigh and Fayetteville. Interesting point about Fayetteville. There's an incredibly popular congressional candidate for U.S. House of Representatives named Pat Timmons-Goodson, and this is a state where we could see a reverse coattails effect. Many times we see upper ballot candidates, presidents, helping out senators and representatives. However, Pat Timmons-Goodson is so incredibly popular in her state and her city of Fayetteville that folks, analysts are expecting the turnout from her to actually help Biden's turnout in the state of North Carolina. So we'll see that. Hillary Clinton, it was one of the few swing states that went for Hillary Clinton in 2016. We'll see if Biden can take that Democratic momentum. North Carolina already also voting for Governor Roy Cooper in North Carolina, indicating a pretty significant Democratic shift in that state. Moving further south, the state of Florida. The state of Florida has 93% reporting. This analyst is going to call the state of Florida for Donald Trump, much to my chagrin personally. But yes, it is very close. If Biden is somehow able to pull off a win in the great state of Florida, in the central area here, we're talking about the I-4 corridor going through Orlando area. That is a typical bellwether for the state of Florida. The northern part being reliably conservative, a lot of military and beach towns up there in the Florida-Bama area. And in the southern part of Florida, the Democratic stronghold of Miami-Dade, also dominated though by Cubans, which have been very popular for Trump when Trump shut down diplomatic relations with Cuba, undoing Barack Obama's initiative there. So a lot of reliable conservatives, and we've seen that in the New York Times polling, 93% reporting as of the last show, and we see Trump has reliably gotten Florida this as well. Well, moving back west now, we'll go over to Texas. So the name Texas, and I'll speak about Arizona in the same swoop as well. Biden has been struggling with a popular Democratic demographic, and that is Latinos. Latino turnout for Biden is going to be his Achilles heel in this election. A lot of folks say this, if Biden loses this, it could be because his Latino focus was not where it should have been. It's going to be incredibly important in a state like Texas, where Joe Biden did not visit one time. His running mate Kamala Harris did visit a few of the urban centers there in Texas, along with the pleading of Beto O'Rourke, please come to Texas, please turn Texas blue. So this indicates that Biden probably does not think he can turn Texas blue. However, there are some reports that say it could go either way. Moving back across to Arizona here, back to the west, this swing state is also very interesting, very critical for us. The Phoenix area is the most populous area and definitely will determine the outcome of this. Arizona has previously been reliably Republican, however, been shifting Democrat in recent years. Joe Arpaio, former sheriff in Arizona, was incredibly right-wing, and folks are kind of believing that the general trend left is because of response to hateful immigration policy. A lot of folks are responding with, a lot of folks are now believing in Arizona that those hardline immigration policies are in fact racist, and we're seeing the state trend blue more and more. So that's all we have to say about the swing states. Back to you guys in the studio. Thanks so much.
And we are back.
We're back.
So a lot going on in that spectrum. But before we went over to Bradley, we were talking about something.
Tina was actually making a really good point about the pandemic in the election, and Trump has been actively trying to ignore the pandemic throughout his campaigning. And even telling people not to worry, and like I said earlier, that the heat, the summer heat would kill it. And now, even during the debate, he was talking about this cure that is going to be available in weeks, so to speak, that no one agrees with. Just like the gray wolf thing, scientists have disagreed with that, and it is worrying to say the least. But do you think that this has hurt his campaign or his election process?
I'm not 100% sure because I like his supporters just would believe anything that he says
Yeah.
at this point. He contracted COVID and then had a whole like other like thing going on in Florida like days after. And
Yeah.
they ate that all up. They eat everything up that he says despite like evidence of it being wrong. I think that it hurt him for people that are more progressive, but for his party, definitely they just believe everything he says. He can
And
say like the sky is purple, and they'll be like, "Yep, it's purple."
Yep. And whenever someone directly asks what's his plan for COVID, what does he want to do if he gets elected, he is clearly talks himself into circles and brings up something else.
It's more so he deflects it every time they
Every
ask him the
time.
question.
He deflects it,
Who's
especially when he was
responsible?
with talking to Biden. Like he just started talking about how Biden would have done worse.
Hold on one moment. We have some breaking news. We have to go. We're gonna go to Bradley for some breaking news on the election. I'm sorry about that, guys. And Gab.
Hey everybody, I'm particularly excited to announce this to you guys. The Associated Press has just called the race in Cranston. Barbara Fenton Fung, challenger to Nicholas Mattiello, has successfully unseated the Speaker of the House in the state of Rhode Island. This is huge implications. Nicholas Mattiello, historically against legalizing marijuana, fighting against an increased tax on hospitals and medical supplies. He has been the antithesis of Governor Gina Raimondo's agenda in the House of Representatives, and he just lost his seat. This could be a referendum on what people believe. It could be a pushback on the conservative values espoused by Nicholas Mattiello. But here in this studio, we're excited to announce that Barbara Fenton Fung has unseated this establishment Rhode Island politician. Back to you guys in the studio.
And we're back. That is some big news. Speaker of the House, Mattiello, is unseated by Barbara Fenton Fung, who is the wife of Alan Fung from Cranston, from Mayor of Cranston. So what does this mean for Rhode Island? Brett, we'll go with you.
Well, I certainly, it's too soon to tell, right? But as I said earlier, I think that the speakership is now up for grabs. It'll be interesting to see how the progressive caucus that is forming flexes their muscles and their influence to potentially either put up a candidate from their caucus or align themselves with other folks in leadership to see who they would prefer to see speaker. I definitely think that from a policy perspective, depending on who's elected speaker, we could see some really significant changes in Rhode Island. And of course, it'll also be interesting to see how does the relationship with Governor Raimondo now change between the governor and the speaker, and how do legislative priorities that maybe the speaker and the Senate president agreed on or disagreed on, how does that now change? I mean, I think there are just so many questions that this now raises that can only be answered once we have a new speaker, but it'll be very interesting to watch.
And I believe Sarah and Tina touched on that a little bit earlier, that, we take the local politics, we take the little wins here and there, and we use that as
I don't think it's really a win. I think it's a win for the Democrat Party to move forward, but I don't think it's a win because with Fung being the Republican Party, that now puts her in the minority. But unseating Mattiello is something that a progressive Democrat couldn't do, tried to do it twice. And unseating Mattiello, I'm y'all, to my fans out there, to my coffee drinkers, they know how I feel about Mattiello, especially when he had said that he did not know Rhode Island's involvement in the slave trade at all. And I just sat there and I said, I can't believe this guy is the Speaker of the House, probably one of the most powerful positions. So I think it's a win for the Democrat Party in a way. Now, as like Brett has says, we can start putting certain legislation forward, but also Brett said something key. It's up to those progressive, newly elected progressive candidates in the Democrat Party to make their voice heard and say, hey, we're going to stick to our guns. This is what we believe. We want to see a Speaker of the House that wants progressive change and wants the state to move forward.
Absolutely.
Anybody else want to lean in on that one? I know, Tina, you live in Cranston. Somewhere out there.
I do, and it looks like we're probably on our way for, at least we don't have Alan Fung as mayor anymore since he met his term limit, but it looks like we might have another Republican mayor over here. Yay, not yay. But what this does too with her unseating Mattiello, at least we know what she is like. I doubt she's any different than her husband is. But what this also gives us the opportunity for is we can put somebody else in there in Mattiello's place. We can put a real Democrat in there who will do some progressive change in a couple of years, right? So that's a good opportunity right there. So maybe we only have to just deal with her for a little bit longer, and then we can put somebody in there who can do some real change. Get one of those progressive women in there that we've been hearing so much about on our show, and that would be a really, really good thing.
Right.
But it's important for like these local elections that we participate in, and that we pay attention to the people that we're putting into position, because they're the ones who are going to impact us directly and more quickly than we do in these larger elections. I mean, they get a lot of the attention and the media attention, ad nauseum, but it's the local elections that are really going to affect our day-to-day lives.
Right. It's our stepping stools to get to what we think that we need or what we should have.
So
it gives us time to get Gabe in there, right?
Exactly. Gabe, maybe Brett. I mean, Tina. Anyway, last week in Texas, Biden-Harris campaign bus was literally surrounded by Trump supporter vehicles. And one campaign staffer's car was rammed by a Trump truck. Man, I wish I was that campaign staffer. You would have hit my car. I wouldn't have cried.
This is just no. This is just
what's
exactly.
Disgusting. It's terrible. It's terrible. What's disgusting about that is there are phone calls from the people in the bus who are calling police to come, assist them, and apparently, the police were called, but they didn't intervene. Just
right.
Assisted them to their next stop. And then we see people like the NYPD who are assisting the Trump brigade that are blocking the bridges over in New York, and not just sitting by and letting it happen, but actively assisting these people in blocking the roads. When in the same breath, they'll talk about how the police are there to help people, and it's really the protesters who are causing harm, when this wasn't a protest.
I mean, let's be real. I've been to a few rallies, and I've seen rallies across the country. We watched with the governor of Michigan when they wanted her to lift the stay-at-home order, when they wanted her to get rid of the mask order. You had people who were Trump supporters outside with guns, basically threatening the governor, and law enforcement did nothing about it. However, every time we hear about a protest happening, peaceful protest, even if they sit on the highway, whether we don't have any weapons, we don't have anything of those nature.
Those are the people that are met with pepper spray, and are met with military means.
The pastors, the pastors and faith leaders trying to get people to vote.
You save the military means for these peaceful protests. Yeah, we keep.
I think this is a good example of like that saying where if you're one vote away from fascism, you're already there, right? Like we're already seeing all of these extremists. Like Trump didn't do much to change the system. Trump just took advantage of what was already there.
Right. I agree.
He did.
Absolutely.
Yeah, this is probably. Go ahead, Tina.
Oh. I was just going to say, Trump had a chance to say something about, about the governor of Michigan right there, but there were people who were actively threatening a United States governor, and all he did was allow his rally to start chanting "Lock her up." I mean, that was treason. They said that she was treasonous, and that's why they wanted her out. But that is treason to threaten a United States governor with bodily harm. And they wanted to kidnap her, put her on trial, and then put her to death for treason is what they wanted to do. And did you hear that one of the young men who was arrested for that is now saying that he shouldn't be in jail because he's afraid of getting COVID. So just it's disgusting.
I mean,
Go
if we
ahead.
pulled
Sorry,
the COVID
Brett.
card for everything, I guess he was he had to try it. He shot his shot as the.
I'm done. I quit. I can't do this anymore. Bye, guys. Good night. Good night, everyone. Good night, everyone. No, go ahead, Brett. Sorry.
Yeah. Excuse me. I was just gonna say that this is perhaps a selfish emotional response to have, but when I heard about that story in Texas, I was embarrassed as a United States citizen, and as somebody born and raised and lived here my entire life. I was embarrassed because what I see is, or what
he said, embarrassed.
What,
the earrings moved.
What I've seen, what I've observed before, and what we've learned about before, is while there are disagreements of who should lead this system of democracy, there is a fundamental respect for the system and the people who are leading it at the end of the day. Yes. And what I see when you see stories like, these people in Texas that are surrounding the Biden campaign bus, what I see is people who are no longer respectful of the system, and they only care about the man. They care about the candidate that is going to that has promised them the world. And it doesn't matter if we destroy the democratic system, if we destroy our opponents. As Sarah said, it is one step away from fascism. They don't care, and it's embarrassing to see that level of behavior, that level of disregard for your opponent. And it's also embarrassing to see that the reaction that folks are having, boarding up, businesses are boarding up their windows in cities across the country.
Yeah.
This isn't us. This is not.
Yeah.
This is not the country that I am certainly used to, or any of us are used to living in. Donald Trump has brought out the worst in all of us, and he has brought out the worst fears in all of us.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. So this end, 56% to 43%. Providence Plantation stays in the name of Rhode Island. Gabe, where do you want to begin with that one?
Gabe, you look too through.
I'm never really shocked at this point with it. It never happened before. It was certainly not going to happen now, especially people not understanding the big hand Rhode Island had in the slave trade. We had such a huge hand in that. Like, we had all of the slave ports. It literally went right through us. And the name change meant okay, maybe if we have this, Rhode Island can move forward on understanding that there are other racial ties that they need to sever and that they need to talk about. It's not just about a name change, it's about changing everything on the inside as well, because Rhode Island is a racist state and nobody wants to admit that.
I mean, the positive thing we can take from it is the fact that 10 years ago, when this was on the ballot, the number's higher. I remember we talked about it in a show previously. I can't remember the exact number off the top of my head, but the number's higher now. So 43%. I mean, Tina, do you think we take that as a win in this state, or do we say, hey, we still have work to do, but or do we say, dang, the state's still racist?
Well, a little bit of both. we can still have work to do while still saying, dang it, the state is so racist.
Oh, yeah.
I think that there's education to be stated there because, as Gabe has said, that people don't understand that Mariello didn't even understand, all the racist ties that had to do with Rhode Island and the slave trade coming through. And I've lived here 5 years, and I've known it probably half the time that I've lived here. So, that says something. And I didn't even go through the school system here. So I'm sure it was taught in school, as in every elementary school, they teach all about the state to children. But so I think it's a little bit of both. There has to be some education that's done there. And I think that the people who were voting against it, against the name change, was probably a knee-jerk reaction to, we can't do anything about Black Lives Matter, and we can't do anything about Antifa coming into our state, but gosh darn it, I can vote and I can keep plantations in the name, because why
Because
take it
why
out?
not?
Because that's going to cost money. But they don't
Right.
understand because it doesn't affect them. They
Mhm.
see, oh, there's a dollar sign attached to the name of it. It's like, do they not see the ink that's going to be saved by not spelling out the entire name of Rhode Island
Yeah.
when it comes to doing these things? So there is a lot of work to be done when it
Yeah.
comes to race. There's always a lot of work that needs to be done. We're not just talking about hundreds and hundreds of years of racism in this country, but hundreds and thousands of years prior to that. We want to talk about racism. We can go back quite a ways.
Oh yeah.
And changing that over a name change, because in their eyes, a few people died. It's ludicrous. It's absolutely ludicrous. So it's not going to happen overnight. These types of changes just don't. It doesn't matter how many times you march, how many times you tell them these things happen. I face racism on the daily. So, and I can't even imagine being someone who's got less than I do. I have a lot, and still to see, the faces of my friends right here on this screen too. The bravery you have just waking up in the morning, it really, tugs at my heart, to see the strength that you go through and see the fight that you have to do. I don't even see that, and I still get the racism. So, I just love you guys.
Aww. We love you.
We love you too. Ken said he loves you too.
Yeah. Ken's got a big heart. He's got
Ken's
enough
got
room
a
for
big
all of
heart.
us. All right, I'll get on then. But if you think that's insane, and if you think that's far fetched, you can only imagine. We have a pretty graphic image.
Oh yeah.
That we wanted to show you
Yes, the
guys.
graphic image.
It's not anything too crazy, but something that it might shock you.
It might shock you. So I know how some people feel about this. I myself, I have a personal story about something like this.
But the end all here in this is that it is related to voter suppression, which is something that I thought was all but abolished.
So a replica hangman's noose was on display near voting booths in a Southwest Missouri county building. It has been covered up following complaints from Democrats that amounted to voter intimidation. I agree that it should be covered up.
I 100% agree.
Period.
If that's not voter suppression, or if that's not voter intimidation, then I don't know what is.
You know what game I stopped playing as well? I'm gonna tell the panel this. I stopped playing that game Hangman.
Oh yeah.
Because basically what you're doing is you're putting a man on a noose. It just doesn't make any sense.
How did no one notice this being set up at a polling place? There's just a noose.
Well, it's saying it's there on display, like as in I guess it's probably like some type of story
in Missouri, and we decided we're gonna have our polling place be here, and no one realized there's just nooses in the corner.
Or why it's on display.
Why?
I've lived in Missouri, so here's my not surprised phase. Missouri is one of those places.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So with that being said, we still have a lot of work to do here, but we're still reaching out to our Southern family.
It's crazy because I remember people continually say, "Oh, get over it," and I remember 2006. In 2006, Genesis happened in Jenna, Louisiana, where 6 boys were arrested.
Oh yeah.
Because they went to a school, they liked the scent of this tree. Some of the white students at the school told them, "Oh, you can't sit under this tree anymore," and they had some back and forth, and they decided to put 6 nooses on the tree, representing one for each of the black boys. A big fight broke out, and the black boys had gotten arrested, and then their motion about civil rights was denied during that time in 2006. In 2006, it was absolutely crazy. And when people say get over it, as a bowler, there were some, and I know there's some of my friends who are bowlers out there, and we have this joke, and it was recently somebody had said, why do you guys say that? You know, if everybody gets a strike in a frame except for one person, we call that a hanging, right? And
I did not know
I
that.
never realized, wow, that's actually not good rhetoric until recently. And I have something I have to work on getting it. But I remember there was one team, before we go back to Bradley. I remember there was one team. It was an older white couple, and they were sitting down, and every time they hung somebody, they had a noose, a makeshift little noose, and every time they hung a teammate, they would pass it back and forth. And I never forget, my feeling in that moment was like, why would you even have that on you?
Yeah.
And I can never forget, you guys know me, I'm not quiet, I'm gonna, my fans, everybody knows I'm not quiet.
No.
And I simply turned and said, I know when we bowl you better not have that there.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't. When they bowled against me, they didn't have it.
I don't understand. Yeah.
But we have to go back to Bradley for some updates. So let's get some quick updates, and we'll be back with our lovely panel.
Hey everybody, back again one last time here with some more election updates. This time we're going to start looking at some projections and seeing what could happen depending on which state goes which way. So this map of the United States here is the essentially if Trump were to repeat what happened in 2016. So in this case, Trump was able to grab these Midwestern swing states. We talked about Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, kind of being the keys to his victory here. These three states would have to be all Trump, though right now Biden leads with pretty substantial margins, and Trump has had a really hard time staying connected with traditionally Democratic suburbs. His relationship with the suburbs, originally a lot of them went for him in 2016 when they were disaffected with Hillary Clinton. However, he's going to have a hard time with that repeat. Joe Biden is not Hillary Clinton, much more popular with this particular demographic. Also on this map, we have North Carolina here. North Carolina, this is a little bit of a mix-up here. North Carolina did go for Hillary Clinton in 2016. It was the one of the few swing states that did. But yes, in order to pull this off, Trump would need to grab he would need to grab Arizona that we talked about earlier. He would need to grab a lot of the states that we've talked about being up in the air. And this would be a relatively unlikely scenario, however possible. Now we're going to talk about the next possibility, the possibility that Trump barely squeaks by. Okay, so that's the next map up here. And very good. Okay, so we're going to look at Trump coming at 270, the exact number of electorate members of the Electoral College he needs to vote for him, coming in with Biden 268. So this is a scenario in which Trump barely ekes it out here. Okay, again, this is coming from the New York Times projection here. So in this case, Biden can carry Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. But if Trump carries all of these other swings, if he carries Arizona, if he carries Nevada, which is pretty lean Democrat these days, if he was able to carry Florida, Texas, Georgia, North Carolina, Ohio. So we're talking about a lot of swing states, even Iowa too. A lot of swing states here going for Trump. And it's not particularly likely. Polling shows kind of the opposite of this happening. But even if Joe Biden gets that blue carpet, as they call it, the blue wall in Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, in those Rust Belt states, Trump still does, as we can see, have an opportunity to grab the presidency. Now we're going to go ahead and move into the next one. The next scenario is if Biden just grabs the ones that, if polling is correct, essentially, if polling shows the accurate turnout of what's if we have no surprises after the polling, this is what we're going to end up seeing. So we have Arizona going blue. We have those same three blue states earlier. We got the Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania. We got Maine 2nd District still going conservative up there. Maine splits their electoral vote, so we still have some support going to Trump from a swing state. Trump, in this case, grabs North Carolina. He grabs Georgia and Florida. He grabs Texas. He grabs a lot of the states. But even if just these ones that we're seeing right now were to swing in Biden's favor, as polling currently indicates they will, Joe Biden cleans up here. We got, what's that? It says 290 to Trump's 242. We would have a Joe Biden presidency. And then for this last scenario, we're going to show you, this is if Joe Biden wins in a landslide. We're talking unprecedented, not possible, but unprecedented and not expected numbers for Joe Biden. We have Joe Biden picking up Florida, already disproven by New York Times reporting. So this particular map is impossible, but if Joe Biden had the possibility of winning Florida, Georgia's in play, North Carolina, we're talking all these swings. Arizona again for Joe Biden. Even in this case, Texas does not. Joe Biden could still win by a tremendous margin up here. So as we saw already, Florida is gone for Trump already. So this particular scenario, not possible. However, Joe Biden could still win major landslides in North Carolina, Ohio, all the swing states in the Midwest, all the swing states out here in the West as well. So another possibility for us tonight. So good luck to everybody. Good luck to all the candidates. And back to you guys in the studio.
Hey,
Oh,
and
okay.
we're back. So I mean,
Glad we got Bradley doing these updates for us.
yeah, I'm glad Bradley is doing the updates.
Yeah.
So it's just,
So why don't we switch it up a little bit and talk about something non-political for a sec. What Saturday was Halloween. The main event for Halloween is of course trick-or-treating. I didn't see very much of that going on. I did pass a few moms and dads in cars with their children dressed in costumes. I cared very little to find out what happened after that. I got home, I stayed home, and then I went to Free Play Arcade in Providence. It was great.
How was that?
It was great. They got a new setup going on with the dividers and tables and things of that nature. It doesn't look very much like an arcade, but it's a lot of fun. I made sure I'd wear my mask and stay safe, but it's obviously 2020 and we're in the middle of a global pandemic. So, did anyone else do anything special, or did we all just stay home?
I got Greek food. That was good.
Nice, love that.
That was fun.
Okay.
We had trick-or-treaters that came. Apparently apparently a lot of houses in our neighborhood had social distancing, candy, candy giver
interesting.
things.
Okay.
Like
a little
And
hand.
so, my sister lives not too far from us, and she was saying that there was this little old lady who had like the grabber thing, and she was handing candy out like that.
That's cute.
And so Ken had made like this little dragon, this PVC dragon that went down the wrought iron railing of our front steps. And so the kids were lining up so that they could get candy out of it. And it lit up. So that was really cool. Some of the parents said that we were the coolest. So that was really cool. Usually we get around like ridiculous numbers of kids here. I would say we're probably pushing like 300-400 kids that come here. So this year we got less than 100, probably I'm going to guess around 50.
Okay.
So there were a lot of kids who did come. Yeah.
That sounds
cute.
good. That's good. That's a way to keep that down. I'm glad to hear that people still had a little fun with it. One of my neighbors actually has a really wide step, and I saw that he put out little bags of candy 6 feet apart on his step, and I thought that was super cute. But I'm not inviting the children to my step, so no, thank you.
I got a bottle of Pinot Grigio and watched the Nightmare Before Christmas.
There you go.
There
you go.
Yeah, so,
how about you guys? What'd you do, Brett? What'd you do,
Gabriel?
Gabriel.
Yeah, my puppy and I, my new puppy Dia and I, were on the couch binging Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Yes.
We love that.
I just stayed home and watched horror movies. Honestly, I binged the Haunting of Bly Manor.
Ooh, I just saw that. It was really good.
Yeah.
I saw a trend also this year with people doing a lot of getting really super creative with their costumes and doing a lot of videography and a lot of photo shoots and things of that nature and getting creative with aesthetics and just staying home and having fun. And I loved it. I love seeing people get creative.
Yeah, I've been watching Twin Peaks, and that was plenty creepy enough for me.
I seen a,
I haven't
you know
seen
what,
it before, so I'm on
I
my
seen a
first watch.
lot.
Oh, I finished Twin Peaks.
I seen a lot of costumes.
Yeah, a lot of
Somebody,
people had costumes.
somebody did Medea, Bam,
Yes,
and Patty.
that was so good.
That was
It was so
awesome.
good.
Like they
And prior to Halloween, I was asking everyone, I'm like, I see everyone's got these costume ideas. What are you doing? And no one had an answer. So,
I mean,
yeah,
eh.
I was just like, okay, sure.
I mean, it's just for me getting in a costume. I need Crisco and fishing wire these days because COVID. I added like 15, 20 pounds.
You got the quarantine 15 as they call
quarantine
it.
15. More like quarantine 55.
I laugh, but listen, I just got rid of my quarantine 15, so she's slim, trim, and brown skin for now.
Mm-hmm. For now.
Yes.
Well, you do know we're on the break of probably going back.
I know. Don't remind me. Ugh. Get my Doritos as we speak.
Hide the Twinkies.
Okay. Get us back on the political train, then.
No problem. I'll get us back on the political train. Okay, so many experts have stated that they expect this election to be decided by the courts, but some fear Trump will also encourage civil unrest and even maybe provoke the alt-right militias into action. Do you see this as a possibility?
Yes, very much.
They provoke themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do.
He already kind of like sent out the Proud Boys in the last time he spoke about them, like that whole like stand by, and encourages them like multiple times, like especially with what happened with the Biden bus down in Texas. He encouraged it. He said, "Go Texas. This is why I love Texas."
He did say stand by, like he was controlling like some little dog who was like,
Yeah.
all right, Proud Boys, stand down. You know I got you.
I was watching Fox News yesterday, and they were saying that
What,
the
fake
Democrats
news? I
were
mean,
starting
Fox
to.
News, sorry.
Yeah, well, you got to keep your enemies close. And so they were saying. They were saying on there that the Democrats were starting to sharpen their knives, as if they don't think that Democrats have guns. But they said that the Democrats were sharpening their knives in the event that Trump would win. And so that right there is a veiled threat and fear mongering to their base as well, saying, if you don't get out there and do something, it's the Democrats who are out there with their knives and probably going to invade your nice suburbias and come attack you with their anti-fascist ideas. So that right there is a veiled threat to get them to start getting together in their what they like to call their little militias, playing games.
These are the tools that they are using in their and it's being noticed now, and it's unfortunate that this election has been such a huge platform for these issues that have been long standing in the political community. And it's time for a change, and that's what I think has affected the voter outcome. A lot of people in our age group have outstanding attendance in this.
Tina, you said something very key. When Fox News, they sit there and they do their fear mongering, and they say the deep state, and they say the liberals, the extremists, Antifa is Black Lives Matters are, and they label us as terrorists, which mind you, Trump's own FBI agency has not even labeled Antifa or BLM as terrorist organizations.
Again, someone disagreeing with him.
Someone else disagreeing with him. I mean, with newscasts now, even now, Progress Report being out there, it's a newscast. I'm pretty sure. I mean, I've gotten some hate mail already saying, "Oh, liberal fake news," and the funny thing is, probably as real as they come. But what can we see moving forward from many politicians when it comes to their relationships with media and also getting the information to the people? I think that's how I say all that to ask that question. What can we see from future candidates when it comes to talking to the media? I feel like Donald Trump has set a precedent with the media that it's going to be. I think it started with anybody.
And I think it started with Reagan. He was the first actor that was elected as president. And so, you know, he
Right.
was, at the time, he was good to look at. He knew how to be in front of the camera. He knew the things to say. He was able to draw the Republican Party together. And now we have this reality show star who's on here, who knows how to get the media's attention, who knows how to use it to his benefit so that he can get the cameras swinging towards him. There's a part of me who doesn't believe he had COVID, because I think that he was just trying to get the attention and the
Right.
look how fast I got over it so that you don't have to be afraid of it. You know, I'm
Right.
not one for conspiracy theories, but I really like that one and the fake Melania one. But I think that that would be a terrible thing for politics going forward, that if you aren't able to get the wow factor and get the camera swinging towards you, you're just going to kind of get pushed aside and nobody's going to listen to you. I mean, in the realm and the wake of reality TV, people want to be shocked.
Yeah.
It's true. That is true. That is true. But again, go ahead. Sorry.
That's okay. No, Dee, why don't you finish your thought, and then I'll go after you.
Go right ahead.
I was just say, you know, for politics and politicians moving forward in speaking with media, my deep concern has been and will continue to be how we as a society consume media, particularly when we see that social media companies are the driving force behind how we consume our news.
Mm-hmm.
And fundamentally, these companies sell our behavior, right, to advertisers. So at the very basis of consumption is this like profit-driven motive, and that like driving profit and providing fair, accurate, non-flashy information are like disparate, clashing ideas, right? So I guess I'm just concerned how we continue to consume media, and I'm concerned very similarly to what Tina said, is if you don't have the wow factor and if it's not being picked up on the algorithm, then it's not newsworthy. And
But Sarah, do you think we can get the wow factor without discrediting what reporters and what newscasters, what their job is to do is get the information out? Is there a way you still can get that wow factor without saying, "Hey, this is fake, not true"? It's.
I mean, I think that we need to ask ourselves, like, why do we need to be wowed by something? I'd like to live in a place where I'm not shocked and I feel comfortable.
Right.
I want consistency and stability. I don't want to be shocked.
And validity.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Don't worry. When I watch my cartoons, I want to be wowed and shocked. Okay?
Right.
Yeah.
But when I'm learning about about politics and things of that nature, and want to get the information that I need pulled out, like Tina, there's times where I watch Fox News, and I'll be honest, to everyone out there, I miss Shep Smith because he was the only Fox News anchor that was consistently calling Donald Trump and his administration out on their bullshit. Let's be real.
He was.
Constantly and consistently.
Yeah.
And then one day he just came in, gave a resignation letter, said, I can't do it anymore, because...
The first of many.
Because at the end of the day, they're saying, hey, you're just not just discrediting what our competitors are saying, you're discrediting what we're saying as well when we call you out. He's been called on lies plenty of times, and
that's why I really love the fact checker thing that we've been doing lately on social media. And like Brett said, with the way we get our news, a lot of people is through social media and a lot of online presence. And I love that we have this new fact checker thing that they do after every public announcement, after every debate, after every political meeting, and it helps us to actually rearrange what is fact and what is fiction, or without going along with something without the knowledge. Because getting that knowledge is part of the problem.
Getting that knowledge and getting the education.
Right.
Education, knowledge, education. All right. A report from Washington State says that nearly 65% of the registered voters have returned their ballots by last Friday. While here in Rhode Island, we were at 35% voter turnout. Why are Rhode Islanders so far behind in voting? In 2018, mind you, in 2018, only 48% of voters cast a ballot. Why do you think we are so low in voter turnout?
I think first it's important to recognize that Washington State already has voting by mail. Like that's how we vote, is by mail. So we have to post. Yes. And so like posting by Friday is on the ballot if we want to mail it by any mailbox. So like it makes sense that most of them were in by Friday. If it was after that, like I voted on Friday, so I went to a ballot box, and that's where you like turn it in, is at a specific one. So it, I think that we're looking at two different systems too, to compare it.
And I think to add on to that too, because Washington State does all their voting by mail, their post offices and their ballot boxes, their infrastructure is already set up for that. So just adding on to that.
And more people can vote because it can work with their schedules. Like it's very helpful for a lot of people to be able to vote.
Right. And the Rhode Island Board of Elections has stated that they are prepared for Election Day and will be able to gather, validate, and tabulate ballots very quickly. Expect the start releasing results as early as 11 p.m. tonight. This is all while conducting a risk-limiting audit of results to ensure accuracy. Rhode Island is only 5 states conducting the risk-limiting audit, by the way. It seems that we may be more prepared than other states in that aspect, at least.
But we have like less people.
We have a lot less people, and I think I want to say in my imagination or in my mind that Rhode Island is very blue.
Well, yeah, I mean,
I want to say,
yeah, I mean, yeah, we're very blue.
I don't know if that's the history of Rhode Island being a transplant, but
yeah,
from what I've seen, we've been very blue.
And you know I made a joke about we have less people. We actually don't. I think we have the same population as Montana does, which is shocking. But
Montana has like 2 people on like.
Yeah, they do. They have like 2 cities too. There's like Missoula and St. Helens. So so that's
they vote by they vote by airplane. They don't have trucks.
All right. So we have a few moments left. Thank you guys for my panel. But
oh my God, yeah, it's been really fun.
It's been really fun. Wow.
Given the circumstance,
I didn't think I could make it 2 hours. But so final thoughts. Each one of you go 30 seconds. Tina, starting with you, Tina.
Oh gosh, I just hope this goes well. If we don't get the presidency, I hope we can at least hold the House and gain the Senate, and always vote local, because that's where we're going to see a greater impact.
We'll go with Gabe.
I think we need to continue voter education. There definitely needs to be more voter education. I've seen it increase, but I think we need to do way more in that aspect. I hope that if we get the presidential seat, we don't stop there. We keep going, and just like make sure that we just keep that momentum going of making great change.
Sarah?
I just want to remind everybody that since since a lot of people are voting by mail, a lot of the votes that we're going to see for Trump, we're going to see a lot more Trump votes, just because more Trump voters are going to the polls, and those are going to be more immediate results. So I just want people to hang in for like a couple days while everything comes together, and hopefully, the country does that too.
All right, and last but not least, the second best Mr. Gay Rhode Island, best looking Mr. Gay Rhode Island.
All right, I guess the election won't be the only thing contested tonight. Excuse me. Thank you to my fellow panelists. I learned so much from you all, and to Dion and Taylor, thank you. Final thoughts: whether Trump wins, whether Trump loses, Biden wins, Biden loses. I think the tremendous energy that we've seen the past 4 years from the progressive wing of the party to really elevate issues like Medicare for all, to elevate issues like climate change and economic insecurity, to elevate racial justice issues. I think we need that energy no matter what the outcome is. So let's keep organizing, let's keep mobilizing, let's keep holding each other accountable, holding our elected officials accountable, and really driving the change that we want to see.
How about you, Mike? How about you, my co-host?
Oh, me? Well, just to rein it in, I guess, because I talk about everything. I like to talk, you know me. I just want to, say, make sure you guys are out there voting for what is best for the country. Like Tina said, like everyone has said tonight, make sure you are voting locally, because those are the legs that we're standing on, so that we can restore credibility and stability to our country.
So my final thoughts on tonight. America, as Joe Biden has said, we are looking at the soul for our country. And no matter which way we look at it, if Joe Biden wins or loses, like Brett had said, or if Trump wins and Trump loses, we still have to worry about the humanity of each other. One of my favorite scriptures is, am I my brother's keeper? And the answer is yes, we are our brother's keeper. Even when we look at people that look at different beliefs from ours, maybe look different from us, sound different, act different, believe in different things, we still have to remember those are our brothers, those are our sisters, those are our siblings. And yes, we are their keeper. Well, I hope everyone has enjoyed the show tonight. I want to thank all my panelists. I want to thank Bradley today, and also, of course, this guy here. I had a lot of fun with each and every one of you, and with all that said, thank you to our technical staff and all the stuff. We will not be here next week. Next week, I am taking the night off. Taking the night off next week. I see everybody clapping for that. Yay! Clapping. Taking there. But we'll be back the week after that, and we have a wonderful panel coming in to talk about some wonderful things. And so until next time, everyone. Again, when you wake up,
grin and bear it, and be good to yourselves. People.
Exactly. Be kind to yourselves. Until next time. Good night, Rhode Island.